Here we are. Hello, everyone. I think we're live. Can you hear me, Kylie?
I can.
Can you hear me, Kylie? You can?
Yes. Yes,
Awesome.
I can.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to welcome everyone to a day of light and love. I'm Jeanne Fritch, and I'm present as the host of this event. This event is going to cover about 20 hours, and we're very excited that you're either joining us or you're watching the replay. Um, we kind of hatched this. The purpose was to fill in during a time when sometimes emotions run a little higher or stronger or hotter, or sometimes just we see the gap or the lack in our lives in areas that we might want to fill in with more love. It could be anyone who's lost a partner or has maybe they just realize that their relationship needs to be stronger, or their relationships with their kids, their spouse. It's amazing how just bringing light and love changes things. We want to also bring it to the world. So the people who are serving today as contributors are people who have a lot of experience in bringing that light and love to the world. And I'm super excited to welcome Kylie Ryan from Sydney, Australia. We're on two different parts of the globe right now, I think, you and me. But I'm really excited that
Yeah.
Kylie has joined us. She is a mindset coach and an NLP trainer, amongst a lot of other things, including a
Yeah.
musician. A musician. Um,
Yeah. Singer.
she's a she is a mom. She is a wife. She is the developer of training systems. She is someone who, I think, your biggest. Oops, we kind of lost her
Oh,
there.
oh, that's okay. I'm here.
Oh, there you
I'm
are.
here. I'm
Okay.
here. I'm here.
I was just going to say that you are someone who maybe you could talk a little bit about what you do and what you offer people, because
Yeah,
for you, what you do is such a mission.
it
And
is.
maybe you can help us get to know you a little better.
Thanks, Jeannie. um, well, it's a pleasure to be here. It's such an honor to be, a part of this with such incredible leaders. It's such incredible, powerful, feminine leaders, and to be hosted by an incredible, transformational woman such as yourself as well. It's an absolute joy to be here. I'm here in Sydney. I'm at my husband's parents' place today. We've just been at a Boxing Day lunch because it's Boxing Day here in Australia. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're up like super early at 1 a.m. or haven't gone to bed yet.
That
But
is correct.
it's just such a joy to be here. Yeah. So I'm a wife and a mom and a coach and trainer and singer and a wisdom seeker. Above all else, I am a wisdom seeker.
That is a great
So
way to put that. That is a great way
yeah,
to put that.
yeah. In
Well,
in in all of those roles, I try to, you know, I do my best to look for wisdom in everywhere I go. So that's really what I am, I guess.
well, I've known you for a little bit, and I would say that you're obviously a wisdom seeker because you're a wisdom bringer, and I think you have to seek it first before you can ever
Yeah,
bring it.
yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
I know a little bit about your story. I don't know how much you want to share, but I think
I'm an
that
open book.
really think that for myself, when I heard your story, there were a lot of similarities. There is something called the hero's journey, and that sometimes feels tough when you're going through it. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit, I would love to hear it. And I know the others would too.
Sure. Well, I guess, where do I start? I guess the kind of main journey that started me on this kind of wisdom seeking. Well, I guess I've always been a wisdom seeker all the way back from being a child, and being a voracious reader, and was the nerdy girl in school, and was really into music and singing. I've always been a singer, and my mum is a singer, and so that's always been a huge part of my life, music and knowledge, like seeking wisdom. It's been a part of my DNA. And so so that's kind of started me off. And when I left high school, I kind of went down this path, which, it's interesting actually. I just recently had a new realization about the path that I went down when I left school, because I was like the Little Miss Perfect, grade A, student, and my sister used to call me Little Miss Perfect, and so when I finished high school, I went off the rails, and like partying and drinking and drugs and craziness, and I was the antithesis of Little Miss Perfect. It's like the ultimate rebellion. And recently I read the book Stealing Fire, and a fabulous book, and it chronicled how people who seek these altered states of consciousness, whether it be through kind of more sanctioned ways like meditation or yoga or spiritual practice, and the more unorthodox or unsanctioned ways of taking drugs or drinking or mindless sex or shopping or that type of thing. They're all different ways of trying to get out of the mundane states of your body and come into that like extreme presence. And it really put so many pieces of my story together when I realized that I've been seeking ways to ascend my consciousness my entire life, and just in various different forms. So from partying all the way through to yoga, through to studying NLP and coaching, and reading thousands and thousands of books. They're all ways to try and raise my consciousness. And when I kind of realized that, I was like, oh, right, that's what I've been doing. And so it's been an ongoing journey. So I kind of had that moment where I went, off the rails in many ways for a few years, and put on lots of weight, and was just really, really living out what people might call that shadow side. And so then I and all the time, trying to be a singer at the time, and then I was introduced to NLP, so neuro linguistic programming, through one of my old singing teachers, who was an incredible mentor and continues to be an incredible mentor for me. And it was transformational from the first moment that I experienced that kind of coaching of those particular processes, and just reframing something in my life in such a huge way, and creating such a big emotional shift and emotional release. It was like, from that very first session, it was like my life went from black and white into color, like one of those old movies, and it was a miracle, those moments were a miracle. And in the time since that first session, I went on and did a couple of other sessions with her. And then when I was like, wow, this is amazing, I've got to learn it. And so I saved up and did like the longest payment plan ever to study this work with her, because I was working as a waitress at the time, and studying like communications in university at UTS, and didn't have two sets to rub together. But I was like, I have to do this. I can't afford it, but I have to do this. So I'll have to find a way. And so when I studied, I continued to shift. And in the year since learning and studying with NLP, I lost 30 kilos, which was, it's quite a, significant kind of thing that people struggle with. And I had struggled with it. I was pushing 100 kilos, really hovering around 90 kilos, which for my frame is, more than I need. And so I shifted that, and I, met the man who's now my husband, and I started singing professionally in a band, and I stopped taking drugs and stopped partying so much. And what else? I got myself out of debt. Like, I saved and cut up my credit cards and got out of debt, and started my coaching business. And like, all of this stuff just kind of turned around, and it was a miracle,
Wow.
And yeah, I've never really considered it a miracle until now, but it really is. When I think about it, what
Yes.
the type of change that I experienced was really quite miraculous. And it really started me on, I guess, accelerated me on that wisdom seeking path that I have been on my entire life. And yeah, I think NLP is incredible, and it's NLP has a bit of a reputation in the marketplace in various ways in sales, or some people think it's manipulative or this or that. But I find that for me, it's been a gateway to understanding myself, and a gateway to help understanding others as well.
Is there kind of like an NLP definition 101 that you can just kind of fill in here for people as far
as might be new?
Yeah, what it is, and what the process is, or whatever.
Yeah, I feel so. NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and a lot of the other teachers that are on today probably have a bit of NLP in their background as well. And it stands for neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro meaning kind of the brain and your neurology and your body. Linguistic to do with the language that we use, and the language that we use to ourselves, and the language that we use in communication with others. And programming to kind of signal the programming that language creates in our minds. Like, it creates a program that we end up living by, and kind of hinting at the ability to reprogram that type of programming with our language. And I find that, my kind of simple way of understanding it is that NLP is a tool. It's a tool, and it's a tool to help you communicate with yourself better, and with your own unconscious mind and your higher self better, and then obviously to understand others and to communicate with others better. And there was this beautiful thing that I read, what was it, the other day? It was like, I think it's a quote from the Buddha, as saying that, the raft that gets you from one side to the other, and a lot of people confuse the distant shore with the raft, and they're too busy clinging to the raft and not being able to let go of the raft when it's no longer useful when you're on the other shore. And NLP is a raft. It helps you to understand yourself better, and when you get to that other shore, then there's plenty of other methodologies and plenty of other rafts that you can use to understand yourself more, and understand others more, and to peel away those layers of programming that can get in the way of you being your best self, and doing what you're here to do on the planet. So being who you're here to be on the planet, I guess. So yeah,
I'm pretty excited about it, just listening to you speak on it. Really, very exciting. Powerful. I think the brightness, just the brightness, like when you're talking about it, it's more than a passion. It's energetically very, very bright. And I think, like, you were talking a little bit about your path, and then you talked about the miracle. I would imagine that when it was dimmer, your life wasn't quite as bright. You probably didn't
Yeah.
feel love for yourself.
No.
Do you find, I'm sure I know the answer, but I have to ask
Yeah.
you, do you
Yeah.
find that the more okay you became with yourself, the more okay you
Mm.
became with others, and
Oh,
the more you loved
absolutely.
yourself, like the more you grew in your
Mm.
own love for yourself, just the more love, and that love almost brought a light, right, like ahead of you.
Totally.
Could you talk about
Totally.
that a little?
Yeah, totally. It's, you know, oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. It's really that, yeah, when I was in that kind of dim experience of life, or even going into darkness times, um, then it was, there was a lot of escapism, a lot of us trying to escape my life, and really kind of living for the moment and living for the excesses and pleasures of the moment in that kind of instant gratification. But when I reflect on it now, with the insights that I've managed to gain along the way, I see that past that past version of me that was, just, she was a really sad, she was just that kind of optimist on the outside, but hiding a deep
Mm,
sadness. And
yes.
very much, I was always the kind of positive, bubbly person and the life of the party, that type of thing. But it would hide a very deep and profound sorrow that that didn't really, I never went through any great trauma. Yeah, my parents got divorced and I had a few, rough patches of life, but I never went through any great traumas in this incarnation. But this kind of deep sorrow, and I guess, being quite empathic, connecting into the sorrows of others. And I just really felt like there was this endless wellspring of sorrow and shame about myself and who I was, and for no good logical reason.
Yeah.
um and it really, yeah, when I think about that person that I used to be, I just want to run over and give her a hug, and tell her that it's going to be okay. And I see, that now I see that light in her that she didn't see in herself. So it's so, yeah, and life is so much more difficult, when you're in that way, and you see things more as obstacles, and you see the power is outside of yourself. The power to change your situation has to do with, other people giving you permission, or someone else saying that it's okay, or that I need more money, or I need more, I need to look a certain way, or I need to have a certain qualification, or I need to have a certain job or drive a certain car. It's like, when you're in that type of state, all of the power seems to be outside of
Yes.
yourself. And you seem so unworthy of ever attaining, all of the things that you desire. And that's, I guess that's why I think about it now as a miracle, is because it really was a radical shift for me from that unworthy self-loathing. I used to, like, pinch these big chunks of flesh on myself and wish that I could literally cut them off, and that type of thing, and really just hating my body, and hating myself for some of the choices that I'd made, and things like that. And it's just, yeah, I was just really mean to myself in those times, and feeling very, very, yeah, just very hurt by life. And yeah, for, when I consider, and have worked with so many people now, if you kind of compare the stats of my life compared to other people's lives, it's really not that big a deal. But it's like, you can't compare one person's pain to another
No.
person's pain. So
No.
it's not,
Yeah.
pain is pain. And a lot of times now, the types of experiences that I've been working through, they're not really from this lifetime, or they're more in a collective consciousness field, or from previous lives, or parallel lives, or whatever, however you want to understand them. So it's kind of tapping into that greater soul experience of pain, and transmuting that for the higher good, so it can become light. Because I think that's the thing that's, I guess, most useful to know now is that when I learned it from Dan Brulé, actually, who is another incredible teacher, and upon Yvonne, our friend Yvonne's recommendation, I went and did some training with him, and he explained this spiraling effect of consciousness. And as you kind of go up the spirals, it's like there's the sun on one side and the moon on the other, and on one side of the spiral it feels really light and breezy, and you've got the sun shining. And then as you go through the night of the spiral, the darkness of that spiral, it feels very contracted and difficult and hard and dark. But you're constantly cycling up, and so there are always going to be expanded moments and contracted moments. And when what you don't realize, I think, and what I didn't realize in those lower levels of the spirals of contraction, is that when you feel so dark and so unworthy, it's like you wouldn't dare shine a light on the pain to look at it. You just want to run away from it and numb it and get away from it as fast, and put it in a box and hide it away, and never let anybody see it, because they would never love you if they knew. If they only knew the darkness that resides within you. And what you kind of learn, I guess, going through cycle of dark and light, is that it's the shining the light of your love and shining the light of your consciousness into those dark places, and being with that part of you that is scared and afraid and feeling ashamed and feeling like they're unworthy. That is the healing. That's the healing miracle, when you bring the light into that darkness.
Oh boy.
Suddenly it's light. It's light, and it can be healed, and you can find so much, all those gifts that are in that darkness, and all of the wisdom that resides in there. And there's so much wisdom in those moments of contraction, and so that's, I guess that's what I think about that now.
Don't you think too? Don't you think too that there's a humility gained as you move through those darker times, because you're ascending, so you're moving into the light, but there's certainly a humility, because it really is more introspective, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It reminds you, like I went through a big shift this year and last year as well, and like went kind of through one of those more contracted places, and it was it's interesting because it is much more introspective. It's like you're going into the chrysalis to emerge anew again and be reborn again into the newer, like higher light. And I guess what starts to come as you go through a few of these cycles, you start to get this faith of like, oh right, I know that this is a contracted phase. I know that I'm gonna come out the other side, and I can start to be compassionate with myself, that even though it might be really tough, and even though the night is long, that those dark nights of the soul, that even though the night is long, that the dawn will come again, and it gives you that faith to see out the dark night.
Yes. And for me, I think that what I've learned is, with every advancement through one of those periods, the darkness doesn't get quite as dark. It might dim a little.
Yes.
But the brightness is brighter and brighter and brighter. Isn't that interesting?
Absolutely.
That would be the word of encouragement to anybody from me that's going through a darker period, or they're being reminded. Like sometimes things like the Christmas holiday will hold a mirror up or reflect, a kind of a scene that we're not as happy with. I've certainly been there in the past, right? But definitely, I mean, there's so much. Just keep moving.
Yeah, I love that. I love that Winston Churchill quote of, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah.
Just go back, keep going, because
Yeah.
it does. It gets brighter and brighter, and
Yes.
and every time the brightness gets brighter, but the darkness gets brighter too. Even when you cycle back,
yeah, it isn't. It isn't
gets
as
easier.
isn't as dark. It's always humbling to me to go through a period like that, having the knowledge that, okay, that's what this is.
Yeah.
So you start to know, you start to anticipate, don't you think? You start to anticipate that it's brighter, and so there's a trust in the process almost. That starts to emerge. It gets easier, doesn't it? Easier to go through. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's more, it's like this underlying faith, I guess, that, you know, and I love that metaphor that, you know, it's like the waves of the ocean, and you can be riding the waves at the top, and you can be, you know, feeling the crashing, or, you know, being sucked under by the waves, or you can kind of drop down and float where the sea is calm, where the ocean is calm. You know, at the bottom there's this calmness that resides in all things, and it's like, even through those tumultuous times, we can still drop within to the stillness within, and there's always that faith that you know, that if you're alive, if you have consciousness, then you can drop within to that stillness of love and faith and peace that, you know, it's in every breath. It's in every breath. And that's a beautiful thing to realize, that, you know, you can have, you know, all sorts of craziness going on around you, but if you have your breath and you have your consciousness, you can bring yourself to peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, that was wonderful. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Now you have a training system that you've developed.
I do. Yeah.
And I don't know how much time we have for you to talk about it, but what I'd like to do is, can you just share with people, like, how they can work with you? I'm sure they don't have to be in Sydney to work with you. Right?
Yeah,
I'm sure
absolutely.
they could be anywhere in the world,
they could be
right?
Anywhere. Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about that, Kylie, because you bring light and love in everything that you do, and it's so apparent.
Thank you.
It just comes. You know, you carry it. You are it. So it just comes with what you do. And I think it would be great if you could talk a little bit about, like, how people can work with you, and then I'll post some links and make sure in the event page that there's some links too. But anything you want to share there?
Yeah, sure. So I have, I guess there's two kind of main ways that people can work with me and my team, moving forward into 2018 and all of the awesomeness that is to come. I train. So there's kind of the personal development track that I help people with, and the professional development track, and they kind of cross over. And so the personal development track, there's our Queens Collective, which is about, it's a new program that we're launching, a kind of synthesis of 8 years of personal growth programs that I've done for over the last 8 years. And it includes all of the things that you need to shift into your sovereignty and to embody your potential, embodying your higher potential. So, you know, sorting out your physical body, you know, on all kind of 4 planes of existence, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, getting the tools that you need to be able to bring things into order without it being this really intense willpower journey of kind of struggling and white knuckling it and trying to be something that you're not. It's really about, you know, letting those unuseful habits and things that no longer serve you drop away. And so through, you know, kind, loving practice of honoring yourself and support and sisterhood and nourishment, allowing you to step by step embody more and more of your potential. And so that's the Queen's Collective mastermind that we're actually launching in January, and with an event in February. So there'll be a live event component that you can come to in Australia, but there's also an online training that you can access from anywhere in the world and be a part of that collective with us. And that's really exciting. And then the legacy program is about incorporating my NLP certification. So that's again a 12-month mentorship with me to become an NLP certified coach, and to learn how to help be a transformation agent and to create that sustainable change for people. And I use NLP as the core technology and grounding piece for the coaching, and train it quite differently than how NLP is typically taught in Australia or in the States as well. It's kind of typically taught in these 7-day intensives, and I find that the processes and the depth of what NLP can offer, it doesn't really do it justice to try and learn it over 7 days. It's like, that's a great start, but I was privileged to be mentored for the first 4 years of my journey as a coach. And so I, went through one of those really fast learning programs because that's all there was, but I was also mentored for years after that. And so that's what I'm bringing to the world, I guess, is this NLP legacy program that incorporates learning how to become a coach, and also learning how to bring that work, your work, to the world. And so I've got my business partner Bianca, who is an incredible business leader. And if one of our graduates said his dad asked her, she's an incredible student and an incredible light worker herself, and her dad said, "Why are you learning with these two mentors?" And she said, "Well, if like Kylie is like the fairy goddess of floaty wisdom, then Bianca is like the earth star goddess of bringing it into the world." And so the two of them together, they're helping me to bring this wisdom into the world. And that's really what my mind coach is about, is allowing you to bring in your higher wisdom and embody it and bring it into the earth and bring it into your daily life and allow it to change your daily life and ripple out to your communities and your friends and your family and all of the people that you're called to serve. And so that's the legacy program. Is there's 4 events, and there's lots of live training and lots of online training over the year. And so it's teaching you how to really embody that transformational coach that creates sustainable change. So
that is great. You just light up when you talk about what you do. You know that?
Oh, it's my mission. It's my mission. Yeah, I'm so excited because my daughter Ruby she's such a little teacher. She's 5.5 and so keen to go to school, and I see her, they're my two missions, teaching my tribe and the people that I'm called to serve, and also, embodying that leadership so that I can show my daughter that it's perfectly a completely natural thing to do for a woman to be a mother and also be an empowered, successful business person. And I want her to know that she doesn't have to sacrifice one or the other, and that she can have both. And so I see that coming through in her. And so that's, what more could I ask for? And my little boy just lights up the room. So it's so incredible to be able to have the freedom, being a coach gives you the freedom to be able to do this and not have to go and work 9 to 5 for someone else. And so that's an incredible gift. That's such an incredible gift to be able to have.
And help facilitate change and growth and bright and amazing futures for people.
It's so incredible to be able to facilitate the joy that you get from working with someone and seeing them transform. It's unbelievable. It's so rewarding, and to be able to have that and the flexibility of being able to do it, you know, on a phone call and then go out and play with your kid like 5 minutes later. It's like heaven on earth. So
Well, we'll make sure that
really
there's a link where
Absolutely.
that will get posted so that people can learn more about
get in touch.
working with you. That's right. Yeah, get in touch. Well, Kylie, thank you for taking, you know, your Boxing Day time and taking it away from family and sharing it with us and kicking off our event. You know, you are our very first contributor of this day. Absolutely. Yes. And you were chosen. And I'm just so glad that you worked it out that you could be a part of this. And I know how amazing you are. And I know I can only imagine working with you. Has to be really amazing. And I want to say to people who are out there, absolutely. I want to say to people who are out there who maybe are feeling, you know, they're feeling a little of the dimness or the darkness in their life, move towards the light. And people like Kylie, they can help you move towards the light very efficiently and with ease. It's amazing once a few things get in place. Isn't it amazing how quickly life just gets brighter and love is everywhere then.
It is. Love is all around. It's such a joy. It's such a joy.
It is.
Oh, Jeannie, what a pleasure to speak to you. My heart is so full and overflowing. What a joy.
Thank you so much, Kylie. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What a joy. And best wishes for the whole experience and for everyone watching. So much love to you this Christmas.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.